we can go, that's a little short. 4:30 is an hour lesson?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not today.
Okay, let me see. Can anybody hear me? I'll see.
I want to sit down here.
Should I be looking at this camera here? Okay, Nadia, Drake, Lynsey, can you all hear me?
Hi, Raúl.
Hi.
Yep.
Excellent. I hear 2. Let me hear 3.
I'm at my friend's place actually because my husband is sleeping.
Uh-huh.
My mother is sleeping in the office, and this is my new
Uh-huh. Fantastic.
I'm on my phone now, but I'm trying to get in as well on the computer, so I know that I'm waiting to be admitted as well.
Great.
Beautiful.
Because I had to do a little setup and take some time.
Fantastic. I think we can all hear you. Can we all hear well?
Yes.
Yes. That's very good. It's a little strange for me that I can't see you unless I turn this way. Okay? But if I look in this way, I'm basically looking at a camera.
Oh, the cat is
Okay? So I hope that works.
She's giving the seminar.
Yeah. And as you can tell, we are still in Italy, so everything here, it's COVID rules inside, and we have to wear our masks. Although I understand that wherever you are now, I hope things are a little bit better or safer. How's that? Mm-hmm. So, Esteban, do you think we can just start? The microphones are good? Connection's good? Do you think we can just start and see how things come along? Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome you all today. Thanks for coming to this seminar number 2 for this week. And this seminar's title is The Social Impact of Music. Okay, it's a topic that we believe it's important that we address it.
I have to admit the other one.
Sure. Okay. Well,
You want to say hello again?
I'll do again. Sure.
There's more people.
Okay, here's everybody connecting from Korea, from China, and the US. Welcome, everyone. Okay, my name is Raúl Vergara, and I will be your moderator today. It's our pleasure to host the second seminar series, and this one is titled The Social Impact of Music. And it's a topic that we believe it's very relevant to address, especially nowadays when we see there's a lot going on in the world. And each country, perhaps each of one of our own country, has been undergoing social processes. Some of them consider them crises, which may be a bit new. But we may also discover that there are, or some of these processes have been ongoing for quite a long time. So we will see about articulating the possibility of how music and the work in music can actually have can be connected. Our role as a musician, a performer, can be connected with these issues nowadays in ways that perhaps can surprise us. And we have invited a wonderful panel of 3 young, bright, courageous ladies from many countries that will be with us today. And I'll have the pleasure to introduce you to each one of them. I will start with Drake Driscoll. Hello, Drake. Drake has established herself as a versatile cellist and advocate for social change through music. Drake is the executive director and co-founder of the Vision Collective, an ensemble dedicated to building meaningful relationships with and among refugees and new Americans, very important, by sharing music between these diverse communities. Welcome, Drake. Next is also Lynsey Callaghan. Hi. Lynsey Callaghan. Lynsey is the leader of a number of initiatives, including the Dublin Youth Choir and Belfast Philharmonic Youth Choir, which provide opportunities for excellence in youth and choral music to Irish youth. Lynsey is the head of research and programs at the Royal Irish Academy of Music. I'd like to point out that I mentioned Dublin and Belfast. So this is absolutely gearing the conversation towards some historical processes that Ireland continues to live until nowadays. Maybe Lynsey will go into more depth during her presentation. And last with us is also Nadia Monczak. Nadia is a chamber musician and soloist who has performed in many countries, over 20 countries around the world, both with orchestras and ensembles. She's also the artistic director of the Chopin Society of Montreal and has been the artistic director of concerts at the Vi Hall in Carnegie Hall for a number of years now. She's currently the education coordinator at Orford Music, former Orford Art Center of Canada. But very important too to mention, she has distinguished herself for her commitment towards humanitarian work. This is very essential to her artistic mission. She has taught at refugee camps in Greece and coached ensembles in South America as well as in Europe. So I couldn't bring a more interesting group to connect with you today, both online and on site, and please welcome them with a round of applause. So Nadia, Drake, and Lynsey, welcome. And what we would like to do today is perhaps I'll throw a question at you all, and I would like for each one of you to answer it. And then these questions eventually will evolve into other questions that I would like for you to bring forward to the table. Those online as well, please. So I would like to ask you, let's start with Drake, since you are my first one on our screen. Drake, would you mind telling us about the social challenges that you have observed in your community, in this case, perhaps America, your country, and how your music initiative has helped to address such issues?
Great. Yeah, so I live in New York City currently, and so there's a lot of social issues there. I've worked for a few different organizations, including the one that I co-founded, that address these issues. One of them is Music for Food, which actually addresses the food insecurity around the United States, but I specifically worked for the branch in New York, and they put on a bunch of concerts raising money for different food banks around the city. With Vision, we address local immigrant organizations, immigrant issues. It's 6 a.m. in California, so I apologize if I'm a little lose my words. But yeah, so we address immigrant issues in New York City, but also around the world. So we have traveled to Greece and Germany, and also visit local immigrant organizations. And we have a twofold way of how we divide our work. One is raising awareness for immigrant issues and music by refugee and immigrant composers. So we're working on an album commissioning project right now, where we are commissioning composers to write music for our ensemble, and we are going to record it and release it in the fall of 2022. And then the second part of what we do is we travel, and we have workshops and concerts in either local immigrant organizations or refugee camps around the world. And we're hoping that one day this will develop into a more sustainable community music program in a refugee settlement, and hopefully expand to many more refugee settlements. What I have found is so special about music is that people can connect without speaking the same language. And it's really what we do, expecting people to pick up the violin and learn how to play it, or bringing music to them and allowing them to share a little bit of their story or whatever they want to share with us through music, and then connecting in that way. And I found it's been a really beautiful outlet for people.
Thank you, Drake. Thank you for introducing your organization and the work that you do. And Lynsey, would you mind also sharing with us the issues that you are addressing currently with your work in your organization, and and how the initiatives that you have, you are leading. Actually, some of them you're a co-founder. So many I couldn't even go through the list. It's amazing the work that you're doing. If you could tell us a little bit about it, please.
No problem. I have some slides to show if you can make me, if I can share screen. I have some images.
¿Quiere compartir pantalla? ¿Sí? ¿Sí? Yes, I think you are able to do so.
Not able to. I can speak if not.
Okay.
Just 1 minute. We'll see if we can sort it out.
Oh, I mean, I can speak before. Well.
Confitrión.
Sure. So, yes, I have set up Dublin Youth Choir in 2017. And the issue that Dublin Youth Choir aims to address is the need for incremental choral music education. So choral music education that starts at a young age and takes people right through to becoming an adult in a way that is accessible and equitable and fair, and that doesn't require a lot of resources for the parents or the families. And so I still can't share my screen, so I'll just keep going.
¿La puede hacer confitrión?
Try again.
Try again, please.
No, it's not working.
Había
Okay.
en el chat donde tú estabas recién, había la modalidad de confitrión.
Ya, voy a mirar.
Let's take 1 minute. We'll double check.
¿Cuál chat es este?
No, en el otro, donde estabas recién perdón, donde están los monitos. There. Ahí está. ¿Sí?
¿No?
En el menú donde estabas hace un rato, donde apretaste.
Este.
Aprieta de nuevo ahí. No. ¿Ya?
No.
Ajá.
No.
Hace un rato estabas en un menú donde intentaste darle conexión. ¿Puedes volver a ese menú que estabas?
I can just speak.
I guess let's go through in the meantime while we figure out a way to make it work.
Are you trying to share
Yeah,
the screen?
perfect.
Yeah, she's trying to share the screen.
She's trying to share the screen. It's from the three bottoms.
Can you go to
Yeah, it's over. It
please?
should be at the top. That drop-down bar to the left at the top.
¿Es here?
It's usually on like, yeah, see the three, like, little three, down, no, see how there's like a little smiley face.
Down.
Down.
Abajo. Down. Yeah, see.
Yeah,
Left.
it's supposed to be share, it's supposed to say share screen there. That's where you usually go.
Okay, I guess it's not going to happen, but
It's
Sure.
for me. It's usually at the top. And it's
In the middle.
Can I try?
yes, please.
For me, it's at the right. For you, it's at the
For me,
left.
it's at the left.
It's amazing. 1 year of Zoom, and we are still trying to figure it out.
The main screen is there.
But it's the same symbol, right?
Yeah,
So just tell her what the symbol looks like.
No, I didn't.
I'm terrible. There's
Okay. We'll try it.
You can't see my expression.
Can you go back to the?
1 more minute here. We have people helping.
Yeah, literally.
Here, where, and you see that left thing?
Here, in this,
Yeah, and there should be,
the main screen is here.
yeah, right here, right here.
Okay.
And I rejected the practicing with you.
No, no,
Ah.
I
Maybe in the
rejected
middle, there's just.
practicing with you.
should be here
You
to
reject? Rejected.
admit video.
We're in the concert.
Go and
You're
press
amazing.
enter,
You're
right?
good.
So I said no to you.
Yeah.
And look at me now.
It's okay, I can let you just speak, it's no problem.
Okay.
No, sorry, okay, sorry. I don't know.
Okay, I guess it's not going to happen now. So let's continue. Thank you, Lynsey. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, so yes, Dublin Youth Choir. We have 7 choirs. We have junior choirs from ages 7 all the way up. And then we have a training choir, a youth choir, and then a chamber choir for over 16-year-olds. We have a choir for 18 to 28-year-olds because our singers were going through the program and didn't want to finish. Oh, and I have been made a host.
There you go.
Amazing.
Okay, so hopefully you can see. These are my choirs. It makes more sense when you can see them. It's less boring. So yes, 4 junior choirs, a training choir, a youth choir, chamber choir, and then DYC singers. Now, what Raúl was talking about is our cross-border youth choir, and I'll come back to that in 2 seconds, because Dublin Youth Choir is just one half of the cross-border youth choir. The other half is the Belfast Philharmonic Youth and Chamber choirs. And these choirs, again, incremental choirs beginning at age 7, are for the young singers of Belfast. And Belfast is in Northern Ireland, so it's a different country. And the surrounding areas. And again, this choir tries to facilitate experiences of excellence in choral music making and musicianship training. So every singer has choir, and they also have musicianship classes inspired by Kodai's philosophy of music education. And many of our staff have studied at Hungary. And then together, these choirs make the cross-border youth choir. So this is 100 singers, although you can't see all of them. The boys are at the back in the relation. 100 singers from Ireland and from Northern Ireland coming together. And if you're not aware of the historical context, there's a history of sectarian violence in Northern Ireland. And although we are in a post-conflict state, so we don't, so there's no ongoing fighting at the moment, there are very much residual effects of this. And though that's not the prime focus of the cross-border youth choir, it is not to alleviate any of the post-conflict situation. This is something that we also hope to do. But primarily, we are there to create excellent choral music, and then we hope that those connections will bring people together as well. And my words here refer to the Article 31 of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child. And this has been ratified in Ireland and also in Italy. And it says that children have the right to cultural activities, regardless of their financial situation, etc. So that's what we try to do.
Wonderful. Thanks for that presentation. I know this is just a like snapshot of the amazing work that you have been doing in Ireland over a number of years, considering that she's a founder of a number of these youth choirs at such a young age. So congratulations for that. And very recently, she's been promoted to this new position that I believe the Royal Academy had to create, a position that didn't exist until this past year, a position that I believe Lynsey was the right fit for. So congratulations for that, Lynsey. And yeah, an applause, why not? Thank you. And Nadia from Poland/Canada. Nadia Monczak, right? Hi.
I just wrote to Lynsey, since she's a new host, you have no power apparently anymore. She's the new host of the meeting to maybe if she can make me be able to share screen. Yes, she just did. So, okay, I just tried this new thing. It's called PowerPoint as virtual background. It's kind of funny. I'll try out if it works.
Yeah, let's see. I have no idea what that is. It's a new thing.
Okay, just one second. Yeah. So I didn't have much time to prepare a slideshow, but I just wanted to show you a few things. Okay, it looks pretty fun.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, I'm in the again, there's the cat. So basically, I don't have such a full-time investment in the social impact, but I've been doing my little bits progressively through the years. So what you see here is a concert that I did in 2018. I was in Greece, and I worked with an organization that taught violin to refugee kids in the refugee camps, and also a gypsy kids. So that was really the Romas, which they live like in the place where you have all the garbage of the city. And they not only teach them violin, but even just how to wash their hands and have some discipline. So it was really was approaching my 30th birthday, and I was remembering what I wanted to do as a child, and I remember that as a child, of course, music was all around, but I always wanted to a little bit save the world. Like I wanted to be to go to Africa and be a doctor or a nun, or it was always something very humanitarian. And then, of course, as music got more serious, I mean, it just takes so much of your time just to follow the teachers you want and be the best musician you can. So at that time, I guess 30 is kind of the traumatic point when you're in your 20s. And I really did a big reflection. So I decided I would go to Lesbos, where it's one of the islands in Greece, which are the closest to Turkey. And there I worked for a little while with, so you see a few kids that I'm still in contact with, especially the one in the middle. I'm still in contact with her family. They got to dress up, and this is in the place where we would hold the violin lessons. This was one amazing girl. So it was a really incredible place where these families, they didn't really know when they were going to get out of the refugee camp. So they were really like stuck in a limbo for quite a long time. And of course, I wasn't there for so long to make the hugest impact, but it was really special to just, every day to go to the camp. Even sometimes I would just play music through the camp, and all these families that are stuck in these environments, they would just playing simple melodies, and to see them smile and to have the kids start learning things. It was really something that was very meaningful to me. I went back to Greece. I worked in a few other places. I also worked in El Sistema, which is here in Quebec. I actually live in one of the most ethnically diverse neighborhoods. It's one of the places where the most immigrants come. So it's, my neighbors now, she always says that she loves this neighborhood because she feels like she's traveling always. There's people from Pakistan and Haiti, and it's just very, very diverse. And I've seen, I was teaching those kids all year, and I could see how big of a difference it made in their life. And now I'm working at Orford Music, which is, this year, it's 70 years that Orford exists. It's in a national park in Canada. So these are some really nice photos from the beginnings of Orford. It was really, I think the food was just like pasta and some tomato sauce, and back in the day it was most of the music was taught by people from like nuns and priests, so it's kind of funny. But it's grown now to be one of the most important music festivals and academies in North America. And a few years ago, so it's still the main, like the bread and butter of our organization. But this summer we have over 80 teachers, and we have over 400 students that are attending for some up to 10 weeks. But throughout the year, throughout the last years, we've also started a program that's for the community of Orford. Orford is a place that's an hour and a half from Montreal, and it's basically the poorest high schools and primary schools. We've started a systemic program, so that's something that I'm very excited to continue year round, because the Orford Academy is in the summer, and then to give something back to the community. Drake went to Orford, amazing. So this is just like a very quick overview, but for sure, it's easy when you're, just as my personal experience, when you're studying music, you want to become the best violinist or pianist possible, and it's hard to really think about society at that moment. You're just trying to play a tune and play the best that you can. But it can be kind of a lonely thing, and I think putting yourself into the framework of society, it just kind of makes it that it all makes much more sense, the effort that you put in, what you can share, and then it kind of makes more sense all the years that you've invested in music, that it's not just for you to be a little bit better than you were a while ago, but it's really brings so much more meaning, and I think in the end that's what we're all looking for, meaning in our lives. So that's my improvised very short presentation of photos that I put together just before the meeting. So
Thank you. It was
Yeah.
wonderful to see you on those photos, and and definitely thank you so much for sharing it. And we appreciate that you touched upon an area of, I think, great importance for us to know, which is you already explained to us the reasons that have led you to this path, this career path, right? And I would like perhaps for Drake and Lynsey to also have the opportunity to share with us what were the reasons that moved them to actually take action, to do the things that you have done so far until now. Lynsey or Drake, whichever would like to go first.
Okay, I'll jump in. So I think, like Nadia said, I've always been focused on helping people, and I also had a little bit of, I want to save the world, I want to make an impact from when I was really little. But I never found a way to do that through music until I went to Juilliard. So I graduated in 2020 with my master's from Juilliard, and they have a new class there called Chamber Music for Community Engagement. And that's actually how I founded the Vision Collective, is because I met two other wonderful people who were as interested in solving, or at least attempting to solve, the refugee and immigrant crisis, or put a little of our love into it. And so we met through that class, and it was supposed to be just a 1-year, 2-semester long class where we did, I think the plan was to do 2 workshops through the class, and then that was that. But we really worked well together, and we enjoyed seeing how music was impacting many people's lives, and so we chose to keep going with this project, and now we're 3 years old, so that's kind of how I got into it. And from Vision, I've started trying to figure out how else I can have this community focus, this music for social impact focus in everything I do. So I started working for Music for Food, as I said. I just taught a class at my old high school, Walnut Hill School for the Arts. It was an Arts for Community Engagement class where I helped 12 seniors develop their own art for social impact projects. And yeah, I'm looking more into admin jobs now. I just applied for 2 jobs at Carnegie Hall in their social impact branch. So I have my fingers crossed for that. But yeah, I just really, I don't know, for me, doing this work, just as Nadia said, I couldn't have said it better. I think doing this work has allowed me to figure out why I loved music in the first place and what music can do for people. And going to a school like Juilliard, I definitely was feeling some burnout. And just going to perform for people who maybe couldn't have access to music, and seeing the way their faces lit up when they were able to create music with us was just so special. And I was like, this is why I do this in the first place. So that's what this work does for me. Very fulfilling.
May I add that one of her colleagues at Vision Collective is Timothy Choi, who we have had the pleasure of working with him at the Orchestra of the Americas. I remember him when he was 17 years of age. Before he went to Curtis, he's performing in Chile at a very cold improvised concert hall, and playing the most superb performance that the city can remember in years. So I'm very glad to see that you're very well, that you have good friends joining you in this initiative, and good musicians, of course.
Yes, we definitely ride on his success, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic.
And Lynsey.
Yeah, so I suppose I am a little bit different in that I studied music education in college. I always wanted to be a teacher. Didn't really believe I could save the world. I just wanted to be a teacher, and that was it. So when I started studying music education, I started thinking about my own school, which actually has what is effectively disadvantaged status in Ireland, so the school is designated an underserved, underprivileged school. And I really, looking at the opportunities that we had, there was very little. I was very much an outlier for playing a musical instrument. So when I was 18, when I started in college, I went back to my old primary school and I started conducting a choir there. So twice a week at like 8 a.m. and I'm not a morning person, like just not. So that was a big commitment for me to do, and I did it for 5 years because choir had been the biggest thing in my life in school. I used to go to choir every single day, even when it was the altos and I was a soprano. I would like go and learn their lines just in case they ever needed me to jump in. I just loved it. All my friends were in choir. All my friends are still from choir. And I just thought it would be nice to be able to do that for other children from my school. And so we had a really successful choir over the 5 years, and that built up into kind of a bit of a program in the school. And so then I just became a little bit addicted to setting up choirs. And so I've set up many, many, many since, but also I've realized the impact that it can have. Though that's not primarily the reason that I set up my choirs or do the work. Primarily I set them up to provide experiences of excellence in choral music education for everybody who wants them. And it just so happens to have this also huge resonance with social impact, social justice. So we do put a lot of work into ensuring that we remain inclusive and accessible, and we really try and work on our on diversifying our program into areas that might not have such easy access to music education as other areas in Dublin. So we now represent all areas in Dublin, all postcodes in Dublin have singers in Dublin Youth Choir. And I think that mishmash of bringing everybody together has really led to some really incredible but anecdotal things. So we don't have any research, and as head of research, I know the importance of research, but we do have lots of anecdotal evidence of the impact that these sustained, incremental, high-quality choral music education programs can have.
Thank you, Lynsey, for sharing those experiences, and thank you as well, Drake. I wanted to point out to a reflection point here, perhaps, is that the majority of us here sitting at this table are, or have been, as in my case, participants of performance degrees, very much looking forward to cultivating at a high excellence our performing skills with our voice or with another instrument that we put in our hands. The interesting thing is, like, we can see how you had a similar path with a cello, with the violin, attending to the top conservatories in the world, you know, and Lynsey taking this path from education at the highest, of course, level, commitment level, and then turning it also to artistic excellence. I'm wondering, well, there are a few questions that I will have, and I will also invite you to maybe come up with some of your own. Questions that I come up with right now are like, when was it that you made that decision? At what point in your life you felt comfortable with making this decision to say, this is where I want to go now. This is the direction I want to take on. You know, Nadia already gave us a little bit of an idea. It had a lot to do with her turning into the 30s when she decided, okay, this is the time when I need to really figure it out. I'm wondering if, how was it for you, Lynsey and Drake? What was the inflection point, if there was such a thing? Would you mind sharing that with us?
I'll jump in, because I know that because I'd already set up choirs from the time I was 18, this kind of seemed natural to me, but when I decided to take the big jump in 2017 to set up what has become probably the biggest part in my life, which is Dublin Youth Choir, you know, I do like 30 hours a week just on Dublin Youth Choir stuff, and that's all voluntary. Was in the middle of my PhD program when my supervisor had left the university and they were struggling to find somebody to supervise me. And it seemed like, and that was in medieval music theory and not performance-based at all. It's a very much an academic degree. But it seemed like that might not happen anymore. And so I thought about, well, what would actually make me happy? And so I thought, well, I'll just set it up and see how it goes. But it wasn't out of nowhere. There have been movements towards that and things I had been doing. But yeah, in a time of despair, choir saved me.
Nice.
I think my story is similar. I think my whole life has been leading to this in a way, but also I think there was just a moment at Juilliard where I was really unhappy with my playing. I loved the school. I had a great time at school. I just think the atmosphere there is like everyone is, when's the next competition, when's the next orchestra audition, and that kind of intensely critical mindset, always preparing for the next thing. And that really, for me personally, bogged me down and made me kind of forget about the fact that we are playing music for music, not for the sake of just being really good at our instruments. And so when I took this class, I started meeting people who were interested in the same things as me. I developed a community at school. But I think the specific turning point for me was our first trip to a refugee camp in Germany. We spent like 4 hours there, and I was just like, this is what I need to do. I hadn't felt that happy or just fulfilled in a really long time. And after that, I mean, I still play, and clearly, I'm in my late 20s, so as Nadia said, I'm at that crossroads where I'm like, what am I really doing with my life? And I'm still trying to figure out the balance of playing cello and doing this work. I still gig, I still teach, because I have to pay my bills, and as of right now, Vision is just my passion project, so I do, on top of my full-time teaching and gigging, about 20 hours, 15 to 20 hours of work on Vision a week. At some point, I hope clearly that I will be able to sustain myself in some way from this work. But for right now, it's just what keeps me going. So I'm still working on the balance. But
Thank you. Wow. Another round of applause for you. I believe this is a good time to open the floor for questions or comments that you would like to address to our panelists. Yes, please.
Hi, this is Emmanuel speaking. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your stories. It's very, very inspiring and so nice to hear about all these experiences that you've gone through to get to where you are now. And I also appreciate how real you guys were with us, you know, how authentic. You guys were just kind of saying things how they happened, and you know, I appreciate that. So thank you so much for your for sharing your stories.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. We also welcome those online to pose any questions that they would like to address to our panelists, or comments as well. All is good?
Coming from this background, you know, going to these amazing conservatories, and I know how it is. It really resonates with me, because I identify too with this, like, music in this career. You feel like you never stop. Like, when's the next thing? Okay, I won this audition, or I did this competition, but now what? You know, and we spend so much hours in a practice room, you know. So how tough, or how was the first process? Like, was it hard when deciding, you know, I'm gonna just get out of the practice room, like not you know, not leave the instrument, but not practice as a priority, you know, and just focus on some other things, like working on these organizations, Was it a hard process finding the balance, or it's something that constantly changes? Like, if you could elaborate a little bit more
Yeah.
about that process.
That's a
Well,
very,
yeah.
there you go. Nadia, you're first, perfect.
Yeah. Well, I still struggle with it. I mean, I'm somebody that's, I get bored with things easily, so I always like to have variety and new projects to work on. And now it's the first time that I'm working for a big organization like Orford Music. So on one side, it's very exciting because it's not just having ideas in my head. There's like actually budget, and we can actually make things happen. So that's like very exciting. But of course, I mean, I've been trying to get into like since a few months, I've been trying to say, okay, at 8 a.m. I practice, and I'll tell my team that I'm only available from around 10, for example. But it seems like there's always things to, there's always fires to put out and always new things to, so that's definitely something that I'm still working on. But I think in general, you know, like as musicians, we practice the most when we have concerts, right? When we have things concrete things that are coming up. So for me, that's always, for me personally, I don't want to only be doing social impact work. Like for me, performing is very important. So it's important to create those opportunities. So to continue being in contact with festivals and I think every person is different. Some people, let's say, they really want to have an orchestral career, or some people really love teaching. And in my case, one of the things that I can do full time, more regularly, is definitely this administrative work to make really interesting projects happen. And that just, I think it's important for you personally to realize, like, what is it that you really like doing? Because there's so many things that you can do in music. You can really, you know, focus more on the educational or administrative. And for many years, I was just traveling every 2 weeks to another place and having a very gypsy lifestyle. So at some point, it's been nice to find something that's stable. But I think you know, if it's really important for you to keep on performing, then you can always, you know, sorry, over the cat. You have to see what's important for me. All those little things are important. I teach less, but I really love performing, and I really love being the organizational person behind interesting projects to happen. So that's just something that I decided. You know, life is short, and it goes by very fast. So what's important for me is to organize things and to perform, and for sure things that have social impact are really important for me as well. So those are some of the things that I do organize. But I think just to be brave enough to say that, yes, this is something I'm really, really happy doing, and I will find a way to, I think once you make that decision that this is really where you're headed, things start to appear. And even with the job at Orford, I remember I had a moment where I decided, well, something that I would like to do more full-time compared to orchestra or teaching would be more of this leadership position where we're making things happen. And then suddenly this opportunity happened that I didn't even really plan for. But I think there's a bit of magic that happens when you really realize what you want to do, and you decide, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to start heading in that direction, and just kind of the universe starts bringing you really good opportunities. So just trust that and to be brave enough to make that decision. Where is it that you want to be headed?
Thank you, Nadia. Lynsey, Drake, how was it for you? How do you deal with all that pressure of your friends or classmates who are only singly looking at one goal and one meaning in life with an instrument at hand?
So I don't totally have this experience because my undergraduate degree was in music education. So I studied violin to bachelor's in the conservatoire, but it was a dual degree. So you do violin, like the performing students, but you also do the teaching side. And I think naturally I just maneuvered more towards the teaching side. But my master's is also in performance and conducting. What I would say is that you have to get out of the practice room at some time. And, you know, whether it's to perform or it's to do whatever, it's it's such a luxury to spend time in a practice room. And I think when, you know, the realities of life hit and you have to also earn money and also do other things, to find ways to be able to do that also like fill your heart are like the luckiest things to be able to do. And I don't personally really understand music that doesn't have a social impact. Like, what can you do in music that isn't socially impactful? Well, maybe play in a practice room, but then that's not sustainable long term. So I think whether you are a solo performer with an orchestra, there's still a social impact to what you're doing. You're still doing it with and presumably for people. Or whether you're performing in an ensemble, or whether you are doing the kind of work that we're doing, I think it always has that outward-facing dimension to it. Particularly nowadays, I think we can't divorce ourselves from the fact that a lot of our orchestras are publicly funded. So if you're sitting in an orchestra, what's paying your wage are, in my country, other people's taxes. So therefore, what do we owe to them? We owe to them to play our best. And so, you know, I suppose if you choose to play in an orchestra, if you choose to play as a soloist, you'll still be impacting socially, just maybe in a different way from what my organisation looks like, and that's cool too.
Thank you.
I thought of just adding very quickly that I feel like I was also lucky that we all have things that go well and that's good and bad in our childhood and everything, but I grew up with a violinist father, and for him, he was, you know, I didn't do the normal schooling of conservatoire and all these private lessons, but he was always talking so much about, you know, you're playing for the people, it all makes sense when you're sharing this music, and for me it was always so obvious that it only makes sense when you're out there performing and it's not all about yourself. So I often couldn't identify with a lot of musicians who are so focused on their career and on their competitions, and I just I couldn't understand how, like, it didn't make sense to be so obsessed about just yourself. So it really, the meaning really made sense, not only to create social programs where kids, like, you know, learn music, but, you know, just any experience where you're sharing music on stage. For me, it's just, otherwise, if you're just going to play in your practice room, you might as well just be an amateur musician and, you know, and just play in your room. But the mission of the musician is once you're on stage or once you're sharing with people that are learning. So
I guess I'll jump in. I love your question because this is something I deal with to this day. Yeah, I would say it's really hard for me. It's been really hard for me to make this transition. I think recently what's led me this way is I've recently been feeling similarly to Nadia and that, like, creating these projects from the admin side and, like, having the visions and then being in situations where I did have the resources to make them happen has been super fulfilling, and that has been a feeling that I have not felt in a long time from playing the cello. And when I was at Juilliard, I remember going to people's recitals and just having a hard time just, like, actually listening to the music and appreciating the music. I felt like my brain had been so conditioned to be like, oh, that note was a little flat, or like, I don't like the way she did that phrasing or whatever, and then having people talk about it after, and like, can we just sit here and, like, appreciate what this person is sharing with us? This is a bit of who they are. That's what music is. And that was so frustrating to me. And I was just like, I'm also a very social person, so locking myself in a practice room has never been something that I do very well, in all honesty. But I did have a really hard time making the choice even just to apply to these current e-hall jobs that I mentioned before. I was like, wow, these are full-time admin positions. Like, is this going to be fulfilling? I don't know yet. But I've always been, this idea has been in the back of my mind, so I eventually was like, I'm just going to do it. And I think the reason it was so hard is part of definitely just going all over the place right now, and I will be a cellist for the rest of my life. And I will be a musician primarily for the rest of my life. And that's kind of how I'm dealing with it right now. What does that mean in this moment? Changes all the time. But I want to share my love for music with people, and that's how I kind of deal with this.
I think there's a lot of, a lot of interesting musicians and teachers right now that talk a lot about this, that I think especially for the world we live in, of course it's really important to play well your instrument, but it's important to have like many tools in your tool set and do different things throughout your career. And I mean, if you're really good at one thing, well, to have those different things that you can use throughout your performing and professional life. So I think more and more this is being on the table and discussed, that you should not just only think about the instrument. And we're living in crazy times, so the more things that you're aware of, that you love, and that you, I think the job of the musician is being really reinvented in these times. So to be ready for a new definition of what it is to be a musician.
Thank you, Drake. Thank you, Lynsey. Thank you, Nadia. It's been wonderful to have this time with you. Thank you for 6 in the morning LA, 9 in the morning Quebec, 2 in the afternoon Ireland, right? I'm getting it right, 3 p.m. Italy. And it's been wonderful to connect with you, hearing about your inspiring stories, moving ahead, especially for some of us. I'm speaking for everybody here, but not as young. But for you guys who are still young, who are still in the process of pursuing your career goals, you will get them. You will definitely achieve those goals that you're after. The question is whether those goals may shift at some point later on. Maybe you'll be 30 years of age and say, I have done everything I wanted to do until now, and perhaps it's time for me to redefine my career in a different pathway. Or maybe it's earlier. But the important things, and this is what we take from your message here, is like to be truthful to yourself. If as long as you are truthful to what you believe in, and understand that if you have an instrument in your hand, it is about sharing the music with an audience. I love that. I love the phrase. Get out of the practice room. That's wonderful, because I think a lot of us spend a lot of time in the practice room, working, figuring out too much about our fingering or our vocal cords and things like that. And at the end of the day, music is about sharing our craft with others. So, I know we have to let them go soon, because we have been very grateful for your time, for this hour you spent with us. But I'm just wondering if there's one last question or comment. I believe this is the time. To our online students, also this is the time, I believe, to address any question or comment you would like to add before we close today's session. Okay. If not,
actually, I have a question for you, Raúl, because you made us work so much.
Sure.
Well, we all know each other from the Global Leaders Program, and I was just wondering I know that you're one of the people that made it happen at the beginning of it, but what pushed you to start the Global Leaders Program?
Oh, okay. All right, try to be brief. It all happened as I guess it's similar to what you all have been spoken today. I was at one point accomplished with everything I have wanted to do in life. Since a young age, I was very clear what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a drummer in an orchestra. And by age 30, I was like, this is it. I got the drummer job in the orchestra I wanted, and I don't think I want a better place than this. I was at that point living in South Korea, and I was playing with the Seoul Philharmonic. And, but there were other interests that I put aside my whole life, because I was so focused into doing that and only that one thing. And that was really great, because once I got that out of the way, I could really start doing other things. Like I became a Latin drummer, I didn't know how to play Latin music, because I didn't have the time to, all right, I want to be a Latin drummer now, and things like that. So a few years later, and with the Orchestra of the Americas, we decided to launch a program that could, first, the idea was to help out all these amazing leaders across the Americas that, like you, were either launching programs out of scratch or working at programs with very minimum conditions in some cases. Typical, I conduct, I make the arrangements, I play, I raise the funds, and things like that. So it was more about giving myself the opportunity and the time to share my skill in a way that it wasn't only playing the music. So in that way, I have to be honest, I'm glad I got out of the way those goals that I had, because had I not fulfilled those goals that I had for myself to play in an orchestra at the level that I did for a few years, I'll probably be a very grumpy person right now, and wishing I had had a different career or so, But it does give me great joy to help a little bit. I'm not really going to do the whole job, but I just help enough everybody else who wants to continue on their path, find a direction perhaps, or just a little get there. I'll give them a little push. I'm happy to do that, because there's a lot of really interesting people in the world out there who are curious about these things, but there's so much around them, like the peer pressure. If you go to a top school, this is the path you should go, right? There's a lot of pressure to break away from that, So, but I think the times are changing, just as you said, and I think there has not been better times in history, perhaps, to be brave and do the career path that you want to do, because I believe those jobs will be created with the steps that ourselves are cementing. Just Drake, she just did, just like Lynsey did, and Nadia, boom, we need Nadia in this job, right? Nobody else could do it better. Right? So that is my explanation for now, but because it's really about you, it's not about me today. But again, thanks so much, Lynsey, Nadia, Drake. A big round of applause. Thank you. Okay. So please follow us on social media. We also have their tags. We're going to follow them. They're very, very busy, involved with so many activities. I encourage them to find them and follow them. And if any of you want to get in touch with them and to follow up beyond this chat we had, I'll be happy to place you in touch indirectly. So maybe they can be a mentor of any way to you in your career ahead. Thanks so much. Lovely to see you. Have a good afternoon, good morning, and good night. Ciao. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that. Thank
Yeah,
you. Right?
sure.
Yes. Don't be afraid of your power. Tremendous things you can do. See that Lynsey was 18 and she was launching.